Hey, good morning, Brendan.
Morning, Josh. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
Good.
How,
How's
how's your weekend?
that was nice. You?
Not too bad.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear it. Looks like Joseph's jumping in. Good morning. Well, I guess Joseph, good evening for you.
Hey there.
How are you? Joseph, can you hear us?
Hey Josh.
Good
Can you
morning.
hear me?
Or good evening. How are you? Yeah, can you hear
Oh,
me?
I can't hear you guys. Is it
Uh-oh.
my side?
Brendan, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Now I can hear you. Okay, cool.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Sorry. Yeah. How are you
How's the day
guys?
so far, Joseph? You're ahead of us.
Uh, yes, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's long. It's 10 p.m. right now, but it's good.
Okay. Well, we
Oh,
we
sorry.
appreciate you meeting with us so late.
No, okay. This is my final meeting, so as they always say, save the best for the last.
That's right. Well, we hope to make it the best. How was your Monday?
Not too bad. Very
Yeah.
busy. It's a day full of meetings. This is where we usually meet together as a team across the
Yeah.
different teams. Yeah, to catch up
Okay.
and plan for the week.
That's great. Well, yeah, you've got us a day ahead. That's usually what our Mondays look like in a lot of cases as well. Just getting the week planned out, getting it all sorted, coming back from the weekend. So it's all good stuff.
100%.
Um, well, Joseph, excited to be able to meet with you today and follow up on our conversation. Joining me in our demonstration today, and just for the meeting overall, his Brendan Carr.
Hey,
Brendan
Brendan.
is one of our senior solutions consultants. Has tremendous experience, so he comes to Domo. By way of one of our clients, and was a practitioner. Now he is again senior solutions consultant, subject matter expert, technical expert. Really excited to be able to have him on the call and
Hmm.
leverage Brendan and his skill set and knowledge to walk through a demonstration of Domo and really bring our solution to life for you today. Brendan, anything else you'd add?
Well, that was a pretty good summary of me.
I love it.
Joseph, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Brendan. I love a summary like that as well for myself.
It's true. He won't say much about himself, so I got to take it and brag for him, right?
Listen,
That's right. Joseph, if you wouldn't mind just maybe taking a minute
sure.
or two and introducing yourself to Brendan, maybe your background, some of the things that you're most interested in seeing and understanding today. I think that'd be really helpful.
Sure thing. All right. So hey, Brendan, Joseph here. I'm heading up the product design and content team here at Contact Out. So a brief introduction of Contact Out. Contact Out, we are a data intelligence platform with over 500 million professionals, contact information, and contact data, company data in our platform. Our primary customers are recruiters and salespeople. Increasingly, right now, we are shifting our strategy towards more of the bigger data companies as well. And primarily why they use our data is to enrich their current database, their CRM, their ATSs, to find more customers, to find more prospects, or to find more candidates, enrich their candidate pools, or simply just enrich their current data, yeah, databases. So for us, in terms of why we are looking out for Domo, so one of the things, in terms of our current tech stack, it's pretty scattered all around. So in terms of getting data for our website to our web app to our Chrome extension, we all kind of like funneling it through multiple different places. For our website is Google Analytics. There is Mixpanel that we are using. For our Chrome extension, it's a little hard to get data, but we have some data with Full Story in terms of tracking it. But if not, other than all the other clicks and user actions, you will kind of store it under with our database. Similar with our web app as well. but these are general user actions. So with this, where we struggle is kind of syncing the data together and kind of presenting a more unified view of our users in terms of how are they using us, because where we are facing issues and trouble is like users will jump across different platforms and we can't get a unified view. So it's a bit hard for us to make business and product decisions. And our primary key focus in this year is really about getting more users with Chrome extension so that we can get more data and enrich our own database as well. And so that we can go for the bigger deals with the data companies. So yeah, and what we are kind of looking for with Domo, as well as like, we are sourcing with other vendors as well, is ability to have that unified view, tie in all our data, but primarily as well, why we kind of use Metabase is because that is what we have been using for the last 7-8 years. And back then, a lot of our team members, when it's very small, are all engineers with computer science. They can do SQL queries quite easily. But increasingly, to increase the access to data between our products, not just our engineers, but our product, our designers, or even to our sales reps who will go in and get the leads, right? So that's one way that we are also trying to do it, because it's not the most sophisticated way of doing it, but that's the current process we have now. So finding a platform that allows folks to really self-serve the data for themselves to get their insights. So they can act upon it, and yeah, we can kind of inform our decisions moving forward.
Awesome. Okay. I just think I missed this, but you mentioned
Sure.
Google Analytics, mixed panel for some parts of your data. Your Chrome extension, you said it was going through
Full story.
what system was that? Full story?
Yeah. In terms of error tracking, we are using Sentry to do the error tracking.
Sentry.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So it sounds like to me it's two components. It's the data unification, kind of single source of truth is one component of this. The second would be kind of enabling those less technical users, the designers, the reps, to self-service. And that
100%.
is kind of exactly what Domo was built for, was those users who aren't developers, to get their hands dirty, feel comfortable working with the data. That would be awesome. So right now everything's funneling into Metabase, or it's funneling as well as it can. And I'm guessing you're
yeah, so it's part of it is filling through Metabase. We still have some that is mainly for the website data is funneling through our Google Analytics. We did build a custom admin dashboard that we can kind of put some visualization to some of the Metabase data. But yeah, the query time and the kind of fetching of the data sometimes is very slow. Even more so when we're kind of doing it on Metabase, it crashes, and especially of the amount of data that we are having in it. So not the most effective and not the efficient way of using it.
okay. So you're servicing insights from both Google Analytics for some components and Metabase for other components. Okay, so your
Yes.
reporting is even out of those two systems. And from a volume standpoint, I was looking at your website earlier.
Sure.
What's your data volume look like when you're saying Metabase is crashing or you're having some slow query times? Are we talking hundreds of millions of rows? Are we talking billions of rows? Give me what's kind of the average data size?
I haven't really. I won't be able to give you an exact answer, but in terms of our traffic, like last month is, I would say, give me a second, let me just look at it. So we can do kind of extrapolation from that in terms of the activity. Let me just look at the month. Just looking at the data right now. So we have about 2.6 million previously. In Jan was 2.5. Last month was 2.6. Every month we're slowly increasing, especially for SEO efforts. So with that, that is visitors only. But when you come and when you look at active users and we kind of look at daily action, definitely in the millions, in the hundreds of millions.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just curious, kind of what that looks like, and again, we can handle it. Our architecture was structured in such a way that whether it's hundreds of millions or billions, right, we want to give you that performance. So at one point, I thought you said 300 billion. That's why I wanted to just double check on that. So
No
that's
worries.
where that question stemmed from.
Gotcha. So in terms of our contact database that we have about 500 million. That is for
Okay.
professionals. Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn has about
Awesome.
900 million. So we have about
Wow.
500. So yeah, not
Hmm.
covering the whole thing yet, but yeah.
Cool.
It's a lot of data, a lot of people.
Yes. So yeah.
Brendan, any other questions, or would it make sense for us to dive in?
Yeah. Yeah, we
Okay.
can dive in.
Yeah, I've got a couple of slides that I wanted to start with and set the stage, and then I'll turn the time over to Brendan, and we can walk through a demonstration. Get into the Domo solution and Joseph, ultimately how it aligns with what you're trying to facilitate and achieve and accomplish internally. So with that being said, let me just share my screen, and we can dive in. Do you see my screen? I've got a slide, Domo, the modern data platform.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. So Joseph, in terms of agenda today, I think, the majority of our time we wanted to reserve for a demonstration, really bring Domo to life, from the perspective of addressing the things that you're driving toward accomplishing. And as we've had a chance to learn more about you and what you're trying to accomplish, I just have maybe a few bullet points I wanted to set the stage with. And then, we'll use that as kind of our guiding principle for going through a demonstration today. So as you've described, we're looking, or you're looking rather, for a solution that you can streamline and enhance your data integrations and your analytics process, ultimately driving toward creating this unification of your data, where today, that data comes together in certain ways through Metabase, but you're finding, that environment and that experience to be, I guess, challenging and time consuming to work with, especially for those that might be considered to be non-technical users. So in the future state, what you're looking to accomplish is being able to bring all of your data sources together into a single source of truth and being able to provide these advanced analytics and reporting capabilities in a way that your technical users can still thrive and drive toward identifying insights and taking action, but then also enabling maybe others in the business with self-service and allowing those users to get insights on their own. In our conversation last week, when I talked about, hey, what are some of the challenges that you're facing, and directionally, what are you hoping this new solution to enhance for you? Part of what you addressed is this notion of bringing AI powered insights and predictive analytics into the mix and helping you with decision making. So part of what we'll talk about today is not only our ability to help you get integrated into different systems, creating that single source of truth, allowing self-service with your users in a platform that has been built for the end user in mind, and in a way that we've facilitate a very easy process to come up to speed. In addition to that, AI is going to play a big part of that, where we want to make it even easier to essentially interrogate your data, to identify those insights, being able to be predictive, helping to understand the trajectory of your business and helping you to make better decisions as you look into the future. That's where we see AI being a really critical force, within our platform. And then finally, just this notion of user friendliness, a system that provides a way for you to drive user adoption, where we've got great training, ease of use, to allow people to easily use your data to, again, identify those insights. So that's what we'll be focused on today. Joseph, anything you'd add to that in terms of what you're trying to achieve?
No, sounds good. I mean, other than that, is going, we'll go down to the more technical, or like in terms of the experience, like user management, team management, but
Yep.
those are those are minor, but yes.
Okay. And we can talk about that. We'll give you some perspective on, what that experience is like inside of
Mm,
Domo, making sure that, not only can we reinforce and facilitate that user adoption, but then allow you to easily manage those users in a way that you can control and drive, what they should be seeing, the data they should be interacting with, because we understand, that the right access to data is very important as well. So we
100%.
can handle and facilitate all of that.
Sounds good.
Before we dive into the platform, I've got two slides I wanted to run you through, and I think it'll set the stage for, the journey that you'll see and experience inside of this demonstration and with Domo. What you'll find today is that we are so much more than a data visualization tool. We're less expensive than other tools in the market like Looker, Tableau, Power BI, for instance. One of the biggest advantages of Domo is that we've designed our solution with the business user in mind, while also being able to support the more sophisticated users like data scientists and analysts. And what you'll see inside of Domo is that you don't necessarily need to know how to write SQL, for instance. I mentioned this in our initial call. G2 listed Domo as the easiest and most user-friendly platform in the space. And I wanted to highlight that because I know that's an important factor for you in what you're researching and ultimately the solution that you choose and pick to move forward with. So I think that'll be something that will shine true in the demonstration today, and hopefully that stands out for you as well. But as we consider Domo, we fit into your tech stack wherever you need. And in certain cases, we're going to empower partners with everything that you're seeing here. But in other cases, maybe we're only facilitating certain parts of these different components. But inside of our solution, we've created a full stack platform that can help you to get connected into data more easily, that you can store that information if needed with Domo, or we could reach out and reference that data where it's being stored. We've got tools that can help to transform that data and put it in a position that really makes and brings these visualizations to life, where you're able to analyze and interrogate that information, and then certainly at the final end, being able to take that data if needed, build apps, extend that, push data into other parts of your platform, open that up for maybe your clients to achieve advanced analytics as well. So you'll see these different components come to life inside of Domo today. The last thing that I wanted to set the stage with is this slide. You'll see the pyramid in this case. And this I wouldn't say is characteristic of Domo specifically, but really kind of the process that a business needs to go through in order to be successful with business intelligence or reporting and analytics. It's going through, when you've got a question, everything that's required to drive toward gaining those insights and taking action with your data. So as you consider all these layers of the pyramid, the one that gets the most attention is right there in the middle with that visualization layer. And it's got the logos that you've mentioned and that you're exploring with Tableau and Click and Power BI, and a myriad of others. It's very, very saturated. But with that being said, there's a lot more that goes into the story, and we believe that your visualization tool is really only as good as the back end that powers it. There's a lot of heavy work that goes into those foundational layers to get data connected, to store that data, prepare it in a way that helps those visualizations make sense. And that's where the magic happens. And part of the reason I wanted to share this slide with you, Joseph, is, I was asking, hey, what's important for you? What's important for your CTO and your CEO? And you mentioned, not only efficiency, but total cost of ownership is something that you as a business will be focused on. And so part of why I wanted to bring this slide into our presentation today is you look at that left-hand side and you compare that to the different actions that are required to bring data to life. There's a lot that goes into it. And so what you'll find with Domo is we've created this all-encompassing solution where we facilitate capabilities to accomplish all of these key components in that journey out of our solution. And what that does is it reduces your total cost of ownership. Instead of you needing to not only get this visualization layer, and then you've got to go and build other tools on top of that to facilitate this entire picture, Domo can do all of it. And that's what we're going to bring to life for you today. Any questions here or just with Domo in general before we dive in?
No. So what I'm hearing is that depending on where we are storing our data and how we are connecting our data, Domo integrates all of this different tools that we might be using on different storage areas we're using. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, yes, I think
Mm,
that's very fair to say.
sure.
If
Mm,
there are other tools that you're using to facilitate these types of actions, whether it's getting connected to different data sources to
mm,
put that data together, having a data warehouse or a data repository, we can facilitate that. But if that's something you're not looking to accomplish, that's just fine. You do have an ETL solution today. Domo can provide and does have an ETL capability that's very powerful. And that's part of what we'll take you through in terms of the demonstration. But what that does is because we've got all those capabilities, again,
mm.
it reduces your total cost of ownership because now you don't need to rely on other tools to provide those actions.
Yep, 100%. Looking forward.
Brendan, anything else you'd add here?
No, I think kind of as we walk through, it'll demonstrate the kind of the
Yeah,
power of the full stack. But
perfect. Well, let me
Great.
stop my screen share, Brendan, and turn the time over to you, and we can dive in.
perfect. All right. Yeah, so Joseph, what we'll do is follow that pyramid, kind of walk through the back end, talk about the different, connection methods that we have and the ways that we integrate
Mm,
with data. And then we can jump to the front end, show you some of the visualization components and how we kind of look at self-service from a few different perspectives.
sounds
Um,
good.
but to start, right, the platform is only as good as the data that we can get. Right. So our focus is on automation and centralization. So what we have done at Domo is we built out a library of over 1,000+ different connectors. So they're
Mm,
just easy ways to tap into data from different systems. So it really is as simple as typing in the system that you want to connect to. So if we're looking
mm,
at Google Analytics, for example, we type in Google Analytics, we'd come over here, we'd click on this connector. It's going to push us to a login page. You'd log in, and then that allows us to pull the data that you need. So we're not doing a full data transfer or data dump. This would be a table by table kind of sync with the system in Domo. But it allows you to, again, grab that information. So if we're grabbing Google Analytics information, we have that. If we're talking mixed panel, same concept, we have that.
mm,
Um, if you're going LinkedIn or any of the socials, we have all of those.
mhm,
However, so full story, for systems that we don't have a native connector built out for, full story
mhm.
being one of those, what we have is called our JSON no code connector, which is a Swiss Army knife connector for any system with an API. I quickly looked into full story. They do have an API and API documentation. So what we would do is utilize this connector to grab that data.
Sure. And is it a field by, is it using, do we have the option to do field mapping or just mapping, or will Domo be taking the entire, I don't know, database or all the available records that we have, be it in our GA, our mix panel, etc.? Yeah.
Yeah, so we would not take everything, right? So Google Analytics, when we're talking about that system, for example, right? Once you
Mm,
log in, there's a page that basically says, how do you want to query your Google Analytics? The way
okay.
we've
Got
built it out is with a kind of a drop down and click interface. So you're not writing a query, you're saying, hey, I want impressions, I want site visits, I want, this information. And then we
mm,
generate the table based off of that.
okay, gotcha.
So that gives you kind of the flexibility from an end user perspective to create multiple tables that are very specific to what those users might be looking at, kind of keep the data clean, keep it easy to use. And what we do within these connectors is there's an automation component of it. So depending on how often you want your data to refresh, we just put that on a schedule, whether that's every hour, once a day, once a week, right? And then ensure that you're just establishing this connection one time.
Gotcha.
So from that point, as Josh mentioned, we do have our own kind of data warehouse or data mart layer to the platform. So we can centralize all your data. So everything that you do need, whether it's from a visualization standpoint, a connection standpoint, or just a storage raw data standpoint, we have all of that contained within the ecosystem with Domo. And this is just a visual representation of what that looks like. So you'll see this outer green ring here. These are just individual silos of data. So these are the different systems we've connected to within our demo environment here. And then this inner blue ring is where we'll jump to next. This represents our ETL tool. So you'll see as I hover over one of these blue silos, some green lines pop up.
Yes.
That just shows you where's the data coming from. How did we correlate this, to get this unified view. So from a transformation standpoint, there's two different options that we have. Again, we always kind of talk about how business user friendly Domo is. It's easy to use for those less technical, but again, we do try to provide technical components to the platform for those who are developers and they understand that. So if SQL is how some of your guys enjoy doing transformations or work with data, we have a SQL or a Redshift environment that they can, they don't have to change the way they do things. But what we've found is a lot of our customers and their users really appreciate, what we call our magic ETL. And it's a drag and drop style ETL that allows those subject matter experts who are not SQL coders to get their hands dirty with the data. And what that looks like is, if I grab two different data sets here as an example, this kind of interface is really as easy as just understanding the data and understanding what actions do I want to take with this data, to get that unified view. So on the left, I have all these different action tiles, which are just basically, it's SQL code written in the back end. But from an end user perspective, if I knew I needed to join this data together, I just bring the join data tile in, I tie my data sets to it. Domo is going to then lay out what you need to do to complete that action. So in my example, I know I want to join these by date. It's then going to tell me I have some naming conventions that I need to fix. I can very quickly fix those. You can see here, you can kind of write an expression. So if there's, again, some component of SQL you wanted to integrate, with this, you can kind of write it in that fashion. But from an end user perspective, they can do exactly what I just did. And you'll see that now this tile is no longer grayed out. It's solid, which means that the action is completed. And from here, I can now take as many steps down the path as I need to kind of shift or transform the data in a way that makes sense for the type of analysis I'm trying to do, or the dashboards or visuals that I want to build. So whether that's doing some sort of simple calculation, whether that's addition, subtraction, multiplication, I can come in and quickly do that. What's my hard bounces minus other bounces in this example? Let's just name that. I can write if statements or case statements with the add formula tile. But you'll see we kind of try to lay it out very easy for people to understand. Here's what I want to do. With that being said, and again, with a kind of a focus on both types of users and where analytics could actually go, we do have scripting tiles. So if you need to integrate Python or R script to really kind of, take your analysis to the next level, we can help you integrate those. We also then have a suite of data science tools, clustering, forecasting, machine learning, and AI. Right? We have the ability, again, to integrate those within this platform and this environment to get you what you need on your front end. Again, just like the data ingestion component, right? Automation is key here. So we can tie these either to when the data updates, just automatically run this data flow, ensure your front end is up to date, or we can put it on a schedule of your choosing. So same component, right? We want the entire backend to be as automated as we can make it for you.
Gotcha.
So before I jump from here, any questions around connection, storage, data transformation, anything?
No, it looks pretty clear.
If I could,
Yeah,
Joseph, I think what you're seeing already, you're seeing this come together and being able to address the outcomes that you're looking to accomplish, getting integrated to your data. You're seeing, the vast connection library that we've built out. It's bigger. Our connector library is bigger than anyone else in the industry. And what that allows you to do is more easily get connected into data, and realize, greater time to value in terms of, being able to create those visualizations and take action. In addition to that, like this simplicity and ease of use, you're seeing some of that come to life in terms of like this drag and drop experience, being able to take something that's very complex and make that available in a very user-friendly format that business users understand and can, basically configure on their own. In addition to that, being able to configure this unification of your data, not only being able to connect into it, bring all of it together, store that in one place, but then use this ETL solution to then create a data set that brings multiple data sources together in one place. So, now you can start to see why I was so excited given what you shared with me and what you're trying to accomplish, because I do feel like Domo aligns so well with that. So anyway, that's just some quick feedback from me.
100%. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's in your product roadmap or what. What'd be real cool in addition to the drag and drop, because for some of our I was just chatting with one of my AEs. In terms of like computers and like software, is way beyond him, right? But what he can do is like say things in plain language, and say the expression out in plain language. Would be cool to kind of like, for them to do that, given what data sources that we have inputted in and selected, for them to see the magic happen. Yeah. Instead of playing around with connectors, but yeah, just a thought. Yeah.
Absolutely. And from that AE's perspective, is that more, to me, it sounds that's more of like a metric generation type question, not necessarily a data transformation.
Yeah.
Is that a fair?
Yeah,
okay.
That's a fair thing.
And that's kind of what I wanted to highlight to an extent here. So again, this is kind of our data library. So that visual storage component, this is it in a more kind of tabular format, but every table that you bring in will kind of sit like, its own little file within this area.
I see.
But for the case of kind of your AE, when you just described, if they know the data that they're working with, so let's say I have this orders data set. This is my, the data is provided to me. I have access to it. I can work with it. How do we glean insights from it? There's a couple of different ways. So kind of down that kind of AI path, I can come in here and there's a little chat bot, just to show you what data I have. So this kind of works. I can start to just ask it questions. What was my actual revenue in Q1 2024, right? I could ask it questions. It's then going to populate a response. It's going to give me a visual around that response, whether that's tabular or bar chart, line graph. And then what it'll do from there is it'll also kind of prompt me with questions I might want to ask after the fact. So here's what my approximate data was in that quarter. And then I could start to layer in some questions. So from that kind of natural language processing perspective, right, they can come in as long as they know the data they're wanting to query against, and they can do just that. So I'll let this one just finish thinking for a second. And then kind of the secondary way, or another way in which you could do it, which is more of a visual creation, would be this area here. So again, we call it Domo AI, but I can do something very similar. In my data, it's broken down by country. I know that is what we have. So if I did, what were my costs by country, right? I could ask it a question like that. And what this kind of area of the platform will do, will generate visuals, and it'll give you different options of those visuals that you can then just put on your dashboards. If I hit the button. So yeah, down that path of allowing people to just kind of ask questions, 100% we can do it, as long as the data is there and they know what they're trying to ask.
Yep, that's good.
Joseph, how does that line up with maybe what you had in mind and what you envision?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, this would close up the gap for our non-technical folks, because what usually happens in terms of our workflow is that if we have a certain metric that we want to find, or a certain query, or a certain uh, data that we are kind of trying to analyze, we would have to translate it to either most likely to our product managers to who are com science trained to then translate it that to our engineers, or they themselves do it. If it's too much for them, then they will have to translate that to our engineers to kind of generate that report or generate that dashboard, which, as you can see here and see, that takes involve many people more than is necessary, as well as also takes time. So something like that gives everyone, honestly, a bit of more of that empowerment to control and then just investigate on the data by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you can see here, kind of based on that question, it'll give me some options. And in this case, simple question, it just kind of gave me two different views. But I could then take these, I could push these to a dashboard, or I can kind of do what I need with them. But
Gotcha.
so that's kind of two different ways in which we could utilize kind of AI to help facilitate the creation of visualizations, or just kind of drill down into a type of analysis that you may want to tackle. However, with that being said, right, data visualization and kind of understanding the data without AI, kind of before those days, this was our report building or our visualization interface. So again, you'll see it's drag and drop. It's very user friendly. So even in the event that someone wanted to come in and ask that same question, what are my revenues by country, right? Creating that visual is really simple, as just, again, understanding what data do I have, and then kind of building out the visual that you want to see. So taking that, maybe I want to look again at a world map. I come over here to my different chart types. And again, we have over 250 different chart types to pick from. I click on world here. I know I need to generate my country name. All I have to do is drag in my country, drag in my revenue, and Domo is going to populate that visual. So again, getting even kind of that exploratory understanding of the data from a visual perspective, very easy from an end user point of view. Kind of flipping that script and saying, maybe I need something a little more advanced than just, hey, give me sales by a certain metric. One thing we see all the time, especially with end users who are less technical, is they get asked, hey, what does my year over year number look like on this metric? And year over year stuff could always be, challenging to create, especially if you're talking about different BI platforms or Excel. And Domo, I think, has done a great job at making that super easy. It's really, here's my date column, here's the metric that I want to do the comparison on. And what we've done is we've put everything inside of this one drop-down box from a date perspective. So whether that is just reframing how you look at the data. So here I have about 3 years of data, right? Too much data. I don't need that. I'm going to go year to date. And I know I want to look at this by week, because that's how, the business looks at things. And now I can provide that year over year comparison. So all I can do is put year over year for these, this same time last year. And very quickly, I've now generated this view of how are we doing, against 1 year ago. So you can see that the speed to value is there. It all comes from kind of clicks. You don't need to have that SQL background, but you could really start to gain some insightful views into your data.
Gotcha. So for this, obviously this is audits, this is different thing. But if you're looking at applying multiple filters, let's say for one of our use case is, these are new users, they are coming from a certain demographic, um, certain country, certain location, by user actions, like laying all these different filters, would that take more time, or actually, from your experience, you see that Domo handles that pretty efficiently, pretty as what I'm seeing in front. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, again, I don't have the exact metrics that you look at, but I think I can kind of demonstrate that. So let's say they're coming from a certain country, right? We want to look at.
I see.
We're looking at revenue, but let's say we'll just call that like impressions. So
Yes.
hey, they're coming from this country, so we just want to look at it from that perspective. We know they're doing, this action or they're coming from this area. We want to look at it from that perspective.
Mm,
And there's a third criteria. I
sure.
filtered this down a little too much, but right, all you have to do is apply those filters into
Yes.
this area, and you'll see you'll still get that performance. It'll still generate it very quickly. So that is one way in which you can kind of start to answer those questions.
100%. So if I want to
Yeah,
see
Joseph.
the, sorry,
Yeah, I was
go
just going
Josh.
to say in that example, there are a couple of different ways that you can approach filtering. You can pre-build the card or the report like you're seeing here with Brendan demonstrating. But
Yes.
then the other path might be, hey, let's create kind of the baseline chart or view. And then when that dashboard's created, you can then set filters on the overall dashboard or within that card. So there are a lot of different ways you could either design it
Gotcha.
directly with those filters or apply filters at a later point.
Interesting. Yeah, this is great. Do we see the raw? Is there an option to extract the raw data, the raw table in the table format? I'm sure. Like for this, based on this,
For the
whatever. Mhm. I see. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess this
So
makes.
kind of to Josh's point there. So there's kind of two different areas of looking at this. There's the building out of the visual itself, and then it's how do we interact with that visual once it's placed on a dashboard.
Yep.
So right, you could build that view out, which I have here.
Yeah, the reason I asked is so that for one of the workflows that we have is for our AEs who are seeing the data, they may want also to download that lead list so that they can use that as prospect because we do a bit of lead scoring. Yeah,
Yep.
gotcha.
So two areas. You could visually just look at what that data looks like. And again, depending on the chart, sometimes it comes out a little funky, but you could also just export it to
Yeah,
Excel, CSV, PowerPoint. So you can get
yeah,
it in that fashion as well. But
awesome.
circling back to Josh's point about building out a dashboard and then allowing kind of users to start to slice and dice and get the view, the way they need it. Let me jump here for a quick second. This is a way in which we envision building out kind of those dashboard views of different KPIs or just overall data sets or department. And
Yeah.
right, you'll see up here executive summary type stuff. This is nothing too fancy, but where we start to add a lot of that extra value is that slicing and dicing component. So you'll see here we've built out different ways to look at the data. So maybe you build it out with a handful of different views. Right now we're looking at site visits, but maybe we want to look at conversions. And you'll see when I click on conversions, everything down here filters, it changes to be a conversion perspective. I can then kind of continue this path and say, I just want to focus on my direct channel. How does that look for all of these different components? Maybe I just want to focus on this one specific campaign that we ran. How does that affect what we're looking at? So you could either pre-build the visuals and say, here are the different filters we want applied. We want it to just look like this. Or you can build out all these different, KPIs and say, I want my end users to play with the data and understand it and dive into it in a way that makes sense for them.
Yep. That's awesome. Yep. Gotcha.
Flip that over. So that
as you look at kind of what Brendan is sharing and showcasing, and just the simplicity of it, how does that align with what you had in mind from a usability perspective and ease of use for your end users?
Yeah. I mean, looking at this is obviously totally different from our experience with Metabase, where we're just seeing rows of projects or from different users, from our team members, and then yeah, just a blank canvas that we essentially have to write out a whole SQL query and mapping out the data set that we want to do. So this one is yeah, it's totally different. In terms of the visualization, the drag and drop, it's very clear. Based on what you just shared as well, if we have rebuilt up a dashboard for I'm just thinking in terms of the different products, yeah, in terms of just filtering it, it will be just a simple click of the different actions or different filters that we want to apply, and we can get that insight much faster.
Yep.
Absolutely. The other thing I just wanted to highlight from a interaction standpoint with data is, drill paths. So again, we have the interactive filtering, kind of slice and dice the data, but then you also have the ability to layer visuals on top of each other. So if you wanted to walk an end user down a story path, right? Here's a high level view of that metric. I can click into it and see how that piece is made up. I can then click again and I can get to another visual or to raw data or to transactional information. So giving you the ability to take what could be a very complex analysis, break it down into small bite-sized components, and then walk someone down through it so they can understand the story or the impact of what that is saying.
Yep, makes sense.
Cool. So those would be interactive filtering, and drill paths would be two ways in which I would say we see most end users kind of interacting with the data or uncovering. Again, you can see they can build their own visuals and kind of get their hands in the sandbox, if you will, from that perspective. But two other things that I wanted to excuse me, highlight from a development standpoint and from an adoption standpoint. Specifically from a development standpoint, one thing that I've seen is you build out a visual. Let's take this one, for example. And a lot of these happen with time-based ones where you build out something, here's how you want people to look at it. And they always come back and they say, well, I need it this other way. It's a slight tweak. You're showing me weekly, but I need it by month. The cool thing is all of our visuals have the ability to kind of be reformatted from a date standpoint. So if you built this out just to show, all time, but a user just needs to come in and look at it, year to date, they could come in and they can make that change. They could kind of flip it. So it doesn't affect the universal view of the dashboard for all your users. It allows one person in their session to come in and kind of just retoggle how they look at it, see what that looks like, answer their questions, and then they can kind of continue forward. So that is one way from a development standpoint to really cut down on ad hoc stuff, because as long as the general KPI is there, end users can get really creative with it. And then the second component would be Domo has an alert engine. So keeping people kind of in touch with the metrics or KPIs that are important to them without them having to come look at it every day. So if I were up here and I'm looking at, sales conversions, and I wanted to just be alerted when the data updates, if it crosses a given threshold or changes by a given percentage, right? I can apply some business logic to that KPI. And let's say, hey, if that ever crosses, 40%, like if we ever get conversions to be greater than 40%, I want to be notified, right? That's something we can celebrate. It's something, we can look at, or it could be the opposite. This is something we need to address now. And what you could do is set an alert on that. You can customize how it reads. So here's the preview. It'll tell you, here's the business logic that we're looking for. Here's what the previous value was, the current value. And then you have the ability to share it with other individuals in the company. So if it's a team project and everyone should be notified, or you as a manager want to have your team, work on it, you could apply that sharing component, and then Domo will track it just so you have data on every time that the alert triggered. So again, there's even tracking on top of what you're trying to track. But this is a great way to stay in touch with the data and not necessarily require you to log in, look at your computer screen, but get updates on the fly.
And in terms of this update or alert, I'm assuming it is via email? And it's the primary source? Or is it possible to do it through Slack? That's where our primary, this is where we
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of ways. We can send it to Slack, and you can get a Slack notification on that. And then the way Domo primarily does it would be either through a text message, an email, or a notification to your phone. So Domo does have a mobile app. We are kind of built mobile first. So you can get all three. If it's really important, you can get one of the three. But those would be the primary ways.
Understand.
So Joseph, as you talk about user adoption, I think it's an important factor, right? Being able to proactively notify when there's meaningful changes in the data, whether it's improving, in a certain way, maybe you missed the mark in other ways, right? Like that's a way to keep people connected and drive them into, viewing important metrics and staying on top of that data.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because yeah, for us we do as well. It's just that it's not as this is more real time. Yeah, so the way we're doing it is not real time. It's on a ad hoc basis, on a week or a weekly basis when we're doing our reporting. So
Yep.
yeah, gotcha.
So I know we have about 10 minutes left. I want to leave room for questions, anything of that nature.
Sure. In terms of migration and connecting all the different data sources that we have, I'm assuming that is the way that the first option that you showed me, or is there another way? How do we do that? Yeah, because
to connect to
yeah, connectors. So like including connectors. So I was just on your website and just looking at the different connectors. So I'm assuming if I want to connect Pipedrive into it, if I want to connect our Stripe into it, yeah, it starts to give us different ideas in terms of what we can start to kind of get the data to connect to each other. So yeah.
Yep, Stripe we have, Pipedrive we have, and again to that point, right? We have a lot of connectors. If we don't, we have ways in which we can do it. So we would usually fall back on this JSON no code if it's a connector we don't have for a system. In the event that doesn't work or they don't have an API, SFTP connections. We also have an email connector which has the ability to pull files off of an email. So if whatever system we're working with can do essentially scheduled extracts, right, we can automate that by just utilizing this. So we have a number of ways. I would say in all my time within the platform, like 99% of the time we found a way, and that 1% is very rare, but depending on where your data is, what you want to do with it, we more than likely have a way to accommodate the ingestion of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds good. In terms of training adoption, how do your what is the Domo way of doing it? Is there self-service training? Is there webinars?
Yeah, so I would say it's a twofold training. So with the implementation process of being a Domo customer, we'll give you hands-on help establishing your platform, getting up and running, and we'll give you training kind of from people like myself. With that, we call it Domo Central, but you'll see it's basically our entire universe of everything Domo. So within here, there's knowledge base articles, there's how-to videos, Domo basics for new users. It gets broken down by kind of what you're looking to do. So if you're looking to, build, a pipeline or build a visual or create an alert, you can start to kind of self-service from that perspective. The other way of self-service is Domo does have certifications based on user type. So depending on how proficient you want, your end users to be, there are kind of essentially tests that they can go through at their own pace, become accustomed to working with the platform. Those are here. And then the third way is, oh geez, my mind. Domo Dojo is what we call it. And what that is it's basically a community forum for all Domo customers.
I see.
When I was a customer, I never really used it when I first started, and I kind of regret not using it. It is amazing. Domo customers are really helpful. Our last kind of deep dive into this is our customers help our other customers answer questions in about 26 minutes is the current response time. So again, if you're just someone who has a question around how do I do this inside of Domo, it's very responsive. Our customers really do like helping each other. It's kind of a really tight-knit community, which is great. So I would say from a end user learning perspective, it would be those three. It'd be how-to videos and articles, certifications, and then you could always kind of chat with other Domo users.
Yeah, 100%. That's great. Yeah, I've been seeing that beast mode in your earlier site as well, and then I'm just saw it on the what is beast mode? That's
Beast mode.
interest. It's a
Interesting
interesting.
Yeah.
name.
Are you, Joseph, are you a football fan by chance?
Uh, not we don't play that American football here here
Okay.
in this part of the world, but yeah,
So
definitely.
the backstory is there's a football player. His nickname was Beast Mode. Our CEO kind of had a liking to him. So he named what is our basically our calculation, creating area.
I see.
He named it Beast Mode. So Beast Mode is just the ability for you to create different types of calculations on your data set.
Sure.
We have it both on the front end and the back end.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That's interesting. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, I would say the next other thing that is important for us is security and compliance. So yeah, in terms of that, I'm guessing Domo is obviously in compliance and secure around that. But yeah, what security measures you all have in place to protect the data for your customers, and how does it comply with the regulations? For the data industry, for us, obviously, um, the biggest one for us is with our European customers, with the GDPR and all. So yeah,
Yep.
to get more insights on that.
Yep. Yeah, so we are GDPR compliant. Then from security standpoint, SOC 1, SOC 2, high trust, HIPAA. We have a whole list and an entire security white paper that lays it all out. So depending on what you need, right, we usually kind of can handle that conversation with flying colors.
Okay.
Joseph, if it makes sense and if that was something you wanted to evaluate early, what we could do is get an NDA in place. Once we get an NDA in place, I could send you a security packet that outlines, our posture with security, all the documentation. So if that's something you wanted to get your eyes on pretty quickly, it'd be easy for us to get an NDA in place and for me to send that your way.
Sure. I think right now we should be okay. We just want to get a high level in terms of yeah, what is the security measures in place that at the
Got it.
moment.
And even
Yeah.
without the NDA, there's some information that I'll send. I'll just take that as an action item to just send you some of the high level, detail that outlines our security posture.
Gotcha. That would be helpful.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I think the last one bit, team management. Yeah. So in terms of this, the different roles and managing teams, giving different access. I know we talked about it earlier. Just yeah, curious how does it look like on the platform?
Yeah. So there's kind of three ways in which we manage users. One being every user has their own role. So within here, you essentially can establish who can do what. In our demo environment here, we have a bunch of custom roles because you can get creative, but out of the box, admin, privileged, editor, participant, social. So by putting people in certain roles, right, that automatically will limit permissions on what they can do. You'll see on our dashboards here, in the top right, these are the individuals who have access to the dashboard. So you can control whether by user or by groups of users. Again, you can create groups, makes it easier from a management perspective, but who has access to the dashboard itself. And then last would be what we call PDP, or personalized data permissions, where you could actually filter down the data based on certain rules. So again, you can build one dashboard for the entire company, but by utilizing these permissions on the data itself, who sees what can kind of change or vary slightly. So these would be row level data permissions.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I just want to kind of see the in-depth actions as well as the access to data. Yeah, because there are some certain data like yeah, revenue, costs, customer details that we may not want to kind of share it with every single team member. Yep.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep, full
Cool.
control over all of that. So that's the nice thing is you keep everything centralized in one platform, but who can see what? Like Josh's view and my view within even this demo environment varies
Mm.
just based on permissions and things of that nature. So
That's good. That's good to hear. Cool. Guess I would say the last question, Josh, is like in terms of pricing, how is it structured by Domo? In terms of the services, in terms of the tool, is it by feature, is it by data set? Yeah, love to
Yeah,
find
great
out.
question. In fact, Joseph, I wonder if I know it's late for you. I wonder
Sure.
if next step might be just a deeper dive. Maybe we schedule a half hour. I could take you through the pricing framework, how we approach pricing, what are the levers that we consider. I guess just 30,000 foot view of that, we've shifted into what we call a consumption-based model.
Ooh.
So it's very similar to a compute-based approach. That being said, we've built mechanisms inside of our model to help prevent, some of the risk associated with that type of model. For instance, credit caps and things that can control your cost and make things very predictable and controllable. So that you can plan out from a budgetary standpoint what this might look like, and not get jammed up with things that maybe are outside of your control. So the way that works is you've got full access to the platform, everything that we shared. And in this consumption model, it's a credit-based approach. Those
Mhm.
credits be akin to like a Domo currency. Credits are consumed based on certain actions that are taken in the platform. For instance, it might be data storage. That's a
Yeah,
very small component of credit consumption, but then it could be data ingestion or workflows, depending on how often those happen.
sure.
Those actions would consume credits. And what I love about that model is it
Mm.
makes it very value driven. You're paying for the value you derive out of Domo and nothing
Yeah.
more. So yeah, happy to go through and just explain that in a little bit more depth, what that looks like, how we consume credits. Could we take that as a next step, Joseph, and just find some time to walk through it together?
Yeah, that'd be good. So just to kind of clarify, is not do you guys do you do it by seat? Is it a team-based planning? Is there a cap
Yeah,
in terms of the number of users? Yeah.
the nice thing is in that model, it's unlimited users. There is no fee for users. There's no fee for number of dashboards created. There's no fee for connectors,
Mm.
for instance. Those
Okay.
used to be levers for us. It
Yeah.
was a traditional model where we had a platform fee, we had user fees, we had connector fees, we had
Yeah.
storage fees. There were all these different components, and we chose, hey, let's simplify this and let's put cost directly in line with the value you derive out of our platform. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that you'll be really excited about the model, but I'd love to just kind of walk you through what it
Sounds
looks
good.
like and introduce this notion of credits and how those credits are consumed. But
Mhm.
again, the huge advantage is no users, and what we love about that is going back to user adoption and total cost of ownership. It's not a question of, oh gosh, we have a certain amount of budget, we've got to limit the users, we've got to limit the deployment here. We want you to get everyone in your business actively involved in data. And so this model is really conducive to making that happen.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, because for certain BI platforms and tools that we have used, analytic platform you've used, there's always going to be a cap on users or a cap on the reports or dashboards that we create. Then
Right.
yeah, it does limits the team.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And
interested to
that's
find out.
that's exactly why we've moved to this model, is we want to take those barriers away and make
Mm.
it more conducive for you to make the most out of your data and being able to democratize that effectively to the entire business.
So, do you guys do that recently, or is it
Yeah,
last year?
we made the shift probably, I mean, it's been a while, but formally probably 6 months or so that we've really kind of transitioned into this approach.
Makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exciting.
Yep. Well, Joseph, I know it's late. Uh, Before we wrap, could we just find maybe some more time to run through that together, a half hour?
Sure thing. This week or next? This week's going to be a bit. Yeah, this week's going to be a bit packed. Can we do the same time next week?
Sure.
Would
Yeah,
work?
next Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll put a half hour, same start time,
sounds
and
good.
and you should see that come through shortly after our meeting wraps.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay,
Beautiful.
sounds good. All right, Joseph, anything else we can help you with today?
No, just to inform that I have a note taker, so I'm gonna share this with my team. Because
Absolutely.
obviously they can't stay at the same time. But yeah, really appreciate your time and sharing, Josh and Brendan. Yeah, really give me a
Fantastic.
bit of that. Cool.
Well, thanks, Joseph. We appreciate it, and we look forward to reconnecting with you again next Monday.
Sounds good. Awesome.
Okay.
Have a good
Take
one,
care.
everyone.
Thanks, Joseph.
Bye.